going on, guys? I am Toxic Jordan. Welcome back to the channel. So last time we did a little tier list for my favorite to use units that had released in 2024. So today I figured with the start of the new year we would expand upon that and just do a generic top 10 list for the entirety of the game's lifespan. So yeah, that is what we've got in store today. So let's go ahead and switch over real quick to our little tier list overlay. Okay, perfect. So I've already got all the units set in the tier list, and I didn't feel like digging through the 800 little icons of units to find all of these units again to actually put them on the tier list. So they're already set up on the tier list, and I just went ahead and blocked out the screen so we can reveal it little by little. So you have to bear with me. I am doing some janky stuff with Streamlabs as we do this. Okay, but before I reveal the first unit, there's another thing that I wanted to mention. I set this up on purpose so that you guys could see me link leveling on the side while we do this whole tier list thing. And the reason I wanted to point that out is because I do a lot of, link level related content, and I talk about what I'm doing with link leveling. I show you guys what my account looks like, post link leveling, all of this stuff. But I don't do a ton of videos where I'm actually doing the link leveling, where I'm actually like showing myself link level on screen. And I think a lot of people might get a kick out of that because it is a very dystopian reality for me. It's very different than what your average Dokkan player is experiencing when they log into the game. And I think it's important to highlight the, severity of my link level journey, because it does absolutely impact this list. Because we are talking units of all time in the entire game's history, right? Which the game started in 2016. I started playing in the summer of 2017, so fairly shortly after. Well, I guess technically the game started in 2015. Because I did start in the summer of 2017 was right before the second anniversary. So I guess it would have been 2 years prior that the game started. But yeah, so in all that time, I have been playing consistently, but then especially since around 2020, when auto came into the game and link levels were a thing, that was when I started playing the game, 24/7 and never putting it down. I decided to constantly refresh my stamina with stones rather than, letting it fill up automatically on its own and only playing as much as I could do to drain my stamina, which is a common thing that frequent players would do, right? So, yeah. Keeping that in mind, I won't go too much into this link level thing since this video is actually supposed to be about something else. But what can I say? You can never shut me up about the link leveling. But you'll notice I'm using a very, very weird strat. I just pulled Daimagoku, so everybody is on Daimagoku's leader skill here that I'm using. But unfortunately, I only have very few units left that are on these leader skills because I only have about 100 units left in my link level box to do right now. So I am forced to use some like rares and stuff, which you'll notice they do actually take damage. These teams are not super safe. Obviously, like the Dokkan Fest units are going to be fine that are on here, but some of these are like really, really old free-to-play units or just straight up like rares and SRs. They will definitely take a little bit of damage. So it is possible for me to get KO'd in this, especially because you notice I'm not using a real friend lead. I am just using a Piccolo Jr. The hope is for Piccolo Jr. to pop on turn 1 every single time, because if he's out there on turn 1, then he auto AoEs the entire fight and then I win. But if he's on turn 2, then I do have a chance to lose on turn 1, so that can happen. Hopefully we don't see that happen, but it just might throughout the course of the video. It's pretty common for me to lose if I'm not paying attention and don't use like a Ghost Usher on that first turn, so... Okay, enough rambling about link leveling. Let's get into this top 10 list. So it is actually a top 11 list. You'll see once you have all of the units revealed why I needed to make it a top 11. There was no singular unit I could have removed from this list. So, okay, so without any further ado, here we go. Unit number 11, drum roll. It is the Tech Androids. So, I think it's pretty obvious why they're here, and you guys are going to quickly start to notice a theme here with the different units. But legitimately, the only reason that they are on here is for their active skill, right? Okay, so yeah, we are simply talking about the active skill, right? So when you're facing only one enemy whose HP is 35% or more, or when you're facing 3 or more enemies. You can delay a single target enemy's attack for 1 turn. Obviously, this is a super strong ability. It's a free Ghost Usher against 1 enemy. You know, it can be a decently valuable thing to use when you're in situations like Super Battle Road and things like that, where you want to like get rid of 1 enemy's attacks. But it is, you know, extremely powerful when you only have 1 enemy out, and you can just straight up get a free Ghost Usher. It's like an extra item that you get to use, right? And, you know, though you're not going to be taking this unit into, like, red zones or anything crazy like that anymore, because obviously, you know, the rest of their kit has aged out pretty hard. We're going to have to wait for them to easy A for them to be, like, an actual competitive unit again. It doesn't change the fact that this active skill is so broken. You can use it in countless different parts of the game. I find myself running this unit on LR EZAs all the time, where you have a bunch of other LRs on the team that are capable of dishing out a ton of damage, and you just want that 1 free turn of, like, just dealing damage and not have to worry about taking any attacks, right? They can be very good for a lot of situations like that. So yeah, this unit is definitely someone to be named. Okay. Let's see. This is going to be very, very funky. Okay, because I'm switching between internet tabs, and I'm also switching between toggling like what you can view on the overlay. So I apologize in advance. It's just going to be a little bit janky here. Okay, so the next unit we've got on the list here, number 10, is actually a tie of 2 units. We do this a couple times on the list, because if the units act exactly the same, then I like to basically put them side by side, right? Okay, so the SR, Jocko, and Chaozu here. Okay, let's see. So we've got to switch to this first, and then that. Okay, perfect. So Jocko and Chaozu have the exact same passive skill. It's written as May stun all enemies. For those of you who are familiar or not familiar, the way this passive actually works is the very first time that they drop into battle and are on the active rotation, they are guaranteed to stun any enemies that exist, barring those enemies have the ability to be stunned, obviously. And then for the remainder of the fight, they have no passive. So only on that first turn do they stun all the enemies, and then from, you know, their second turn onward, they don't have a passive. So the idea is to use them in a situation where you know they're only going to come out once. One of the most common places that I used these two was when Super Battle Road first released, and that became the hardest endgame content in the game. Because you were dealing with, you know, 3-turn fights in Super Battle Road, these guys were perfect. You would run them in slot 3. They would show up on turn 1 at the beginning of the fight. They would stun all the enemies for you, you throw them in the 3rd slot, and then over the next 2 turns, you destroy all the enemies, so that at the beginning of the next fight, they come back, stun all the enemies for turn 1. Basically, you were giving yourself a free Ghost Usher for the beginning of every single fight, right? So yeah, that was a really, really powerful way to use them. I just think because there's literally no, like, it's such a unique design in their kit, and there's no other units in the game that have this, right? There are, like, the STR Jiren card, he has, like, a chance to proc this ability. There's a couple of other units in the game that, again, have a chance to do an ability like this, but these are the only units where you can actually guarantee it, which is why you can technically rely on them, right? Just because, you know, obviously it would be a nightmare if they only had a chance to do this, you know, this stunning ability, because then that would mean there's a chance you throw them on the rotation and then you just die because they didn't proc their passive, right? Where now, as long as you can guarantee ending the fight in 3 turns, then you're going to be perfectly fine. And if they don't show up until, like, turn 2 of the fight, then actually 4 turns is okay, right? So yeah, Jocko and Chaozu, very, very strong units. Well, not strong units, but very, very cool, unique units. There isn't a ton of places to use them anymore, just because, you know, fights have gotten so long and difficult, and most of the hardest content in the game at this point doesn't allow you to stun, you know, these really hard-hitting bosses, so they don't have much capability anymore because of that. But there still are some places. I want to say in the last year or so, I used them at least once or twice on some various events that I could get away with it. So yeah, Jocko and Chaozu. Alright, so heading back, unit number 9 that we've got here is Tech God Goku. So obviously there is one specific main part of his passive that is the most important, and that is this. He reduces damage received by 77% when there's a movie boss or pure Saiyan category enemy. That is an insanely large portion of the difficult bosses in the game. And now, because we're not dealing with afflicting the enemy with some type of, effect like stunning them and stuff, we don't have to worry about whether this can proc or not. As long as they are on the category, there is no amount of boss effects that can eat through this damage reduction. It's permanent. Damage reduction, aside from just straight up dodging, is the best mechanic to have on your character because the enemies can't do anything about it, right? In 2024, for the first time, we did see some bosses that can actually critical hit you, which means that even if you've got units with insane amounts of defense, because they can be critical hit, they still take a ton of damage. But damage reduction will actually factor in when you're receiving a critical hit attack, right? So they have not yet released any boss in the game that can eat through damage reduction. So this guy still holds up very, very well. Now, obviously, this doesn't mean that he can tank the strongest super attack in the game or anything like that. But most of the super attacks in the game he can tank, especially if you got him loaded up on a 200% team, maybe another really good support unit on the team or something like that, right? Helping him out. And then obviously he is a nuker, not an insane nuker, but he is a nuker on top, of this crazy ability. And then he gets this extra buff here with the rainbow key spheres obtained. So yeah, you can make this guy look quite tanky, especially post super attack when he raises his defense and everything. So yeah, definitely still a solid and valuable unit. I would say a staple for most people's accounts if you are still have years and years of content to grind through in this game. He is going to be quite useful in a lot of different places for you. Okay, so heading back over, unit number 8 that we've got is Tech Caulifla. I'm sure that does not come as much of a surprise to you guys, considering what the last unit just was. Okay. There we go. All right. Yeah, so Tech Caulifla has a very similar, passive ability to, to the God Goku here. This is the portion we're looking at here. So she has guaranteed evasion against Universe Survival Saga or Pure Saiyan category enemy. Again, that is a very large portion of the game. Universe Survival Saga, not quite as widespread as far as the enemies go. Obviously, we've had a couple big years of Universe Survival Saga celebrations where they've released some insane fights. So there is some places to use her as far as that's concerned. But Pure Saiyan is the big one. There's lots of, Goku, Vegeta enemies there. And then also Broly is another really huge one to consider. So any Goku, Vegeta, or Broly enemies in the entire game, she's basically just going to be able to use, be used on the team and have free evasion, right? Now, another really big place where it can be cool to use her is Easy A stages. That is actually true of most of these units so far. Easy A stages are a really, really powerful place to use them because obviously they're very short fights, and as long as they meet the enemies meet the conditions, which there are a ton of different Easy A stages that have a Universe Survival Saga or Pure Saiyan enemy, you can just throw her on the team, and then it's a free unit that for sure can't take any damage, right? And especially, it works out even better if it's not an LR EZA because it's not going to be interrupting your ability to have the legendary power link active. But obviously, you can just still throw her in slot 1 or slot 3 and then have the other 2 units on the rotation if they are LRs link up together. So, yeah, Tech Caulifla, very, very good. She'll be usable forever, basically, because of the guaranteed dodge. As long as you're jumping into an event where for a fact she cannot get hit throughout the entire event, then it is never going to matter what the rest of her kit is. She's just a free, perfect unit, right? So yeah, she definitely deserves her spot on this list. That is for sure. Okay, coming in at number 7, we have Int Yamcha. Alright, Int Yamcha. So obviously pretty much the only reason that we've got him on here is because of his active skill. So can be activated after the character evades 4 or more attacks in battle. That's not important. The alternate activation ability is when all allies attacking in the same turn are Earthbred Fighter category characters. That allows him to launch an immediate super attack. which is guaranteed to hit, which is kind of funny. Not that there's many places that would be irrelevant where the enemy's actually going to be dodging you, but well, actually, I guess that doesn't make any difference at all, really, because active skills are already guaranteed to hit. You can't launch an active skill and have a dodging enemy dodge it. They are guaranteed to be hit with the active skill. So this is only going to affect the rest of his super attacks afterward, which obviously is not why we have him on the list. So it's genuinely just because of the Earthbred Fighter team. If he has him on that full Earthbred Fighter team, then every time he comes out for the first time, he is guaranteed to launch a super attack. So it doesn't really matter how strong this super attack is. The reason that that's important is for utility, right? We know that there's other top dogs who have been link leveling for a very long time, like the Truth DT himself, who swore by using this unit as a leader because he has that start of turn active skill. So as long as you're loading up a bunch of Earthbred Fighter, units on your team, then you can link level very, very fast, especially on stage 31-4, where you're doing 4 different fights that are all against one enemy. Technically the first fight is against Tien and Chaozu, so it's 2. But then the rest of the fights are against one enemy. If you're lucky enough to have this guy on rotation, which using him as your lead and your friend lead, oftentimes that is going to be the case, then immediately you load in. He launches the active skill the same way like Piccolo Jr. would for what stage I'm working on right now. And then, he ends the fight, and then you can either get your link levels or you don't, and then you move on to the next fight. It's a very, very quick and efficient strategy, a great way to get all of your Earthbred Fighter categories characters leveled up. And the reason why this can be such a huge deal with such a limited team is because Earthbred Fighters is the largest category in the game. It includes every single Goku card, every single Saiyan, every single Z fighter. It's literally every single Earthling in the game, and then also every single non-Earthling that has spent the majority of their life on Earth. So including units like Piccolo and Goku and stuff, right? They're Namekians and Saiyans and whatnot, but they have been raised on Earth, learned to fight on Earth, so they are included on the category. So yeah, it's like over 1,000 units in total, probably, right? Like it's just an insane, probably not that many, but it's hundreds and hundreds of units. For me, it's over 1,000 because of all the iterations of characters that I have, right? Because if you've got this one Daima Goku, it's not just him, but it's also him and him. So technically, there's 3 different units that are on the category, if that makes sense. And there's a lot of free-to-play units that I do have that kind of filled out for. So yeah, Yamcha, super, super useful, not just for link leveling, but I also use him for a lot of daily stages, right? So any of the daily grindable stages that have one enemy that you're fighting against. For instance, the Whis equipment event. You're only fighting against just the one Whis, so I use him as my leader, and then I'm able to run through that stage every single day very, very quickly. So yeah, between him and then the Piccolo Jr., any daily stages that we have, I'm able to finish off very, very quickly, right? So yeah, this guy has a lot of utility. Yeah, I've noticed quite a few times when there are, events where I just need to run through it quickly, I just throw him on here. I have a pre-built team that is meant to be a speed team, and it's just all Earthbred Fighter characters that need to be link leveled, and then him as the leader. Okay, I think that's enough about Yamcha there. I guess it's also worth mentioning that aside from like the link level stuff and the like using him as a utility unit, of any of the units we've gone over so far, this is definitely like the most powerful, right? Like there is still end game content you can get away with running him in, just because he has, all of this. He's built around dodge. He has so much good like dodge chance in his passive and stuff. I don't think his stats are really gonna hold up. He kind of is a dodge or die unit at this point, but he can provide a little bit of damage, and then obviously is pretty reliable when it comes to the dodge. I believe he is also one of the units, yeah, much like AGL UI Goku and STR UI Goku. This part of his passive right here, so he evades enemies' attack plus 10% within the same turn with each super attack performed. This ability actually stacks on top of his high chance to evade. It's not a separate proc. They actually do combine together just because of the way that this passive is written, the way the character is coded. So when you put him in slot 1, he's got the high chance to evade anything coming up before, and then after that, plus, you know, he gets the additional 10% evaded with each super attack performed. So if you do throw him in slot 1, he already has an extra additional, and then he gets another additional after evading. So he just gives himself so many additionals, right? And then, yeah, if you do all of those, you're going to be adding on to where post-super, he could be at like 80 or 90% chance to dodge, depending if you get that hidden potential system additional, or like all of these proc as super attacks, because it does have to be super attacks performed, right? So yeah, he can be looking very, very impressive on the dodge, and that does make him still a somewhat viable unit to use in today's meta. Okay, next up after Yamcha, we have got STR Bulma. So yeah, she's still insane, right? She's not on here for many, like, you know, special utility kind of reasons. This is the first unit that is genuinely on here because she's busted, right? This unit has run the game for 2024. She is so impressive. I mean, the thing is, like, she came out in the middle of 2023. I believe that's the JP release date, though. And yeah, she, like, oh my goodness, she has just done so much. She's like still one of the best support units in the game. If Glorio hadn't released, I would have said that she maybe is the best support unit in the game, possibly. But yeah, she's just got so much. She's got the increasing damage reduction per turn. She's a rainbow orb changer. She's got, you know, an insane nuking ability. On top of that, she gives herself just additional stats with more and more key spheres. She's got crazy amounts of support. She is just very, very good, right? Definitely solid to just run in slot 3 on many teams. It is very nice to have a utility unit like this, someone that you know, can be providing a lot of support to the team that is also so strong themselves. You don't have to worry about them getting destroyed or whatever, right? You know, oftentimes I do throw her on the team, intending to use her as a slot 3 unit, and then I'll run into some random rotation where I'm like, oh gosh, like, of the 3 units on rotation, and based on what's going on with the enemy's attacks and stuff, I actually want Bulma in slot 1, because that's my best chance of surviving here. So even at the end of 2024, I'm still finding that to be true sometimes, right? She's also got one of the craziest active skills in the game. That is definitely no slouch of an active skill. She's giving a bunch of key and stat support to all of the enemies, but the biggest part of it is this. They did, you know, over the past couple of years, they have released a few units. Actually, well, okay, if your Dokkan knowledge precedes you, then this will be a bit of a spoiler for the list, but every single unit that has this kind of passive, I believe every single unit, oh, okay, not every single. I just thought of a couple that aren't on the list, but there are quite a few of these type of units that are on the higher part of my top 10 list. These units where, you know, something in their passive or their active skill allows them to change the entire field of orbs into one color. For Bulma, what that's going to mean, because of her stacking defense per key sphere obtained, is that she's going to give you a full heal, regardless of where your HP is at, right? And then, so if you think about it, you use the active skill, it's going to immediately change all the orbs, and you use active skills before, well, typically before you've selected any orbs, right? I guess it is possible for you to select the orbs for whatever unit you want in slot 1, and then after that, you pop her active skill. That way you'd be selecting all the STR orbs with her in slot 2. But my point is that if you do choose to pop her active skill first thing, and then use her in slot 1, she, after selecting the entire field of orbs, she's going to have buffed her defense so hard. And because you can't use this until the 7th turn anyway. Well, actually, I mean, her damage reduction goes down every turn. So I guess that's when she's going to be at less of amount of a damage reduction. But her defense gets so high that she still basically is untouchable after that active skill turn. So yeah, Bulma's crazy. She's great. Okay, I think that's enough about Bulma. We can move on to the next here. Let's see. Okay, so the next unit that we've got, I believe this is Glorio, Mr. Glorio himself. So obviously, comparative to the rest of these units, Glorio is like, you know, insanely new. Not you know, definitely not on the same level of like ancient as all these other characters. In fact, at the time of recording this video, he is literally the newest unit to release because, you know, we got the New Year's banners with Glorio and Daima Goku on them. And then beyond that, all we've gotten is the New Year's banners that have released, which are obviously just culminations of a bunch of previous LRs and Dokkan Fest that have released without any brand new characters on them. So yeah, Glorio, newest unit in the game. He's literally only been out for 5 days, 6 days now, I guess. But yeah, he is the best support type unit in the game, giving 50% attack and defense for 3 turns as long as he's the 3rd attacker in the turn. He's also got a crazy good leader skill here. That, you know, so basically the point is you're going to be able to use him as a lead, which means you're going to be able to have 2 of them on the team, which means 2 out of your 3 rotations, you know, 2 out of your 3, like, 3rd slot units are going to be Glorio, which means 2 out of 3 rotations, you have him on. But because the support lasts for 3 turns, it means that 2 out of your 3 rotations, you're basically going to have 100% attack and defense for all your allies, which is just insane. Just insane. And then the fact that he gets this, the additional 50% stats with every single super attack performed, is quite insane. This allows him to start the turn out, dishing out like 10 million attack stats, and then by the end of the turn, if you get lucky with all of his super attack procs, he can be launching upwards of like a 30 million attack stat. It's insane. He does so much damage. And then, you know, he's also got some stacking dodge based on the super attacks you do and stuff, as well as just high chance to evade to begin with. So not only is he going to have insane support, insane damage, and then crazy defense after doing all of that damage, he is also going to have a really good chance to dodge. And he's in slot 3 anyway. So, like, it just, he's perfect. He's literally perfect. There's not a single thing that I would change about this unit. He's also got the active skill here, right, which he only needs to perform 3 or more super attacks. Chances are you're going to be able to do that on turn 1, so his active skill should be available for you, you know, starting beyond the, on his 2nd appearance in the fight. Which is also going to give him, you know, a damaging attack, which is good, and then an attack disable, which is really nice as well. That can be super useful. So, yeah, not much else to say about Glorio. He's insane. I guess it's worth mentioning that, like, his animations and his OST are super cool. I also have been really enjoying the character myself in Daima. Obviously, you know, he hasn't done too much yet in the show, just because, you know, we're only, like, what, 12 episodes in. It seems like maybe there's some hidden motives for him. We don't really know whose side he's on, you know. When we first see him, he is in the Demon Realm spying on Demon King Goma, right? And now he has seemingly paired up and is fighting alongside, you know, the Z fighters that are traveling through the Demon Realm and stuff. But obviously some other fishy things have happened. I won't say any more than that. I don't want to be too big on spoilers. I know a lot of people are waiting for the dub to begin their watch through of the show. But yeah, he just seems like he is. They are gearing him up to be one of the main focus characters, to be one of the, you know, main plot thickening characters of Daima, and I'm just very excited to see where it goes. Obviously, with Dragon Ball's very typical thing, we can expect that at some point Glorio's going to have a transformation, right? Because even with, you know, it's not just Goku and Vegeta, like it's quite literally everyone. Like, so many characters that we face off against get transformations. Like, I don't think that there's a single enemy in all of Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball's, like Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Super, that doesn't transform, right? Like Boo, Cell, Jiren, I don't know. There's so, like, Frost. There's just so many. Bergamo, like, everybody seems to have a transformation. So I don't think it'll be super long before we eventually see Glorio powering up and showing us what he's really made of. So yeah, love the character, love the card. Glorio's great. Okay, now let's take this off. Okay, perfect. I keep forgetting the order to do these things to make sure I'm not accidentally spoiling the top part of this list. I've already had to make multiple cuts in this video because I clicked the wrong button and then accidentally exposed the entire list. Okay, so here we go. Very next unit coming up is gonna be a lot of units. It's all of the 50% support units. Well, now technically 60% supports. Okay, so I didn't pull up all of the 50% support units. I didn't bother putting all 10 over here. I don't think it's really necessary or important to go over like all 10 of their kits, especially considering they do have the same exact kit skeleton. There's only a couple of key differences with every card. Obviously, one difference is the typing, because there's, you know, Extreme AGL and Super AGL, and then they have that for all 5 typings. Their leader skill is going to match whatever typing they are, so that's going to change a little bit. Obviously, it's still going to be Key 4, 150% to stats, and then all of the base support and stuff that they have, and key selection and whatever, is just related to their specific typing for everyone. So, you know, the skeleton of the kit here is exactly the same, and we'll jump back and go into that in a second, but quickly, I just want to make sure that everybody knows, their super attack effects are different, and that is the units, mainly, the main thing of the units that I'm going to be pointing out, because that is the key difference of what shifts the power and ability of these units, and then as a subtext, we'll also be talking about, which categories they cover, because I think that that is relevant too, as far as, you know, the variety of places that you have the ability to use these characters is definitely a relevant factor for me as far as which ones are my favorite and not, right? So, number 1 of all of the 10 50% supports to me is Pan, and then number 2 is the Int Kid Gohan, and number 3 is the STR Kaba. So, here's the reason why. Pan has a 2-turn 30% stat buff for all allies. That is so powerful. Any units that allow you to get some type of stat support that lasts for multiple turns where you don't have to have them on rotation for that support to still be there is so freaking big. On top of her being good enough when she selects a lot of orbs with her nuking passive and stuff here, you don't necessarily need to hide her in slot 3. You can run her in slot 2, and then that's going to help whoever's in slot 3 get this buff for that first turn as well as whatever units are on the opposite rotation, right? So that is really good for her. And then obviously if you consider she's a Saiyan, she's on Goku's family and stuff, Earthbred fighters, there are quite a few fun places to use her. And then now, actually thinking about it, Daima Goku is a Dragon Ball Seekers lead, so she could be on Daima Goku's team. That's very exciting. So yeah, lots of fun places to use this unit. Oh, I was looking here, she's on Bond of Friendship and Parent of Child, but not Bond of Master and Disciple, which would put her on Beast Gohan's team. But yeah, so a very solid unit indeed. You know, there is this one part of her passive that is a little bit restrictive. This is true for all of them, right? They need 3 or more of the same type of unit on the team in order to get this guarding all attacks for 4 turns. That is decently relevant for their kit, for sure. You know, that is not like a whatever part of their passive that you can just ignore. That definitely does make a difference for the characters. But if you think about it, because they are 50% support, and well, now technically like a, what is it, 60% support for them? Yeah, because it's 10% for AGL and then another 50% for Super AGL. So if you are going to be running all of this support, you might as well load up with a bunch of AGL type characters in the first place, right? So they kind of go hand in hand. It makes sense. If you're going to be running this character anyway, chances are it's because you have the ability to run a lot of AGL characters on the team. So on top of that, the very last thing we'll point out about the generic parts of their kit here is this right here. So it changes all key spheres to AGL when HP is 50% or less if there are 2 or more super class category allies on the team. So obviously that's pretty easy to do. If you're using a super version of one of these, chances are you're going to have another 2 or more super class allies, and then same deal with the extremes. And 50% HP is not that bad to achieve, right? Obviously sometimes, like with the Bulma one, it needs to be her active skill, which is on turn 7. Chances are you're going to be able to see this HP 50% or less long before turn 7, and that's going to do a couple of things, right? So, 1, when your HP goes below 50%, on a normal turn where that happens, you are in severe, like, range of dying. If you're on endgame content, nowadays, we're in the, like, so, even if you're using, like, one of the best top-tier teams in the game, you're going to have about 750,000 HP. Like, we'll just say 800,000 HP to make it easy. 50% is 400,000. 2 normals in slot 1 could probably kill you on like some crazy, like on the Bulma, the Bulma like red zone stage, right? Like you could easily just die there, right? On like the heroine battle is what I'm referring to. But yeah, like using a unit like this, where you get all the AGL key spheres and then a full heal with them on top of the, 50% defense per key sphere, you definitely get a full heal, and then they're upwards of 1,000,000 defense, and they can definitely tank for you in slot 1, and they're going to be putting out like a guaranteed crit because they need, what is it, get 10% crit per AGL key sphere obtained, so when you get the whole field, they get guaranteed crits, a huge attack stat for the turn. So yeah, they look especially good on that turn where you get to use this ability for them. But even aside from that, very fun units to use in general. And then really quick, I will go ahead and point out the super attack for him raises attack and defense by 50% for 9 turns. So if you keep him on rotation, he's going to be quite crazy. He's going to be able to build up a lot of stats. Obviously, he has all of the exact same buffs we just went over in his passive. And then he's got an even better setup of categories. I don't think that his super attack effect is quite as good, but his categories and stuff are better. And I find myself using like an int Earthbred Fighters team quite often. In fact, my Battlefield team for Ultimate Clash, I use Yamcha, the int Yamcha, as my first lead, and then him as my second lead because he's the 150 lead. And then I just run all Earthbred Fighters. And there's a lot of strong int Earthbred Fighters that you can do. So yeah, very, very fun team. That I use him on a weekly basis because of that. And in fact, a lot of the 50% supports I do actually use in Ultimate Clash. It's kind of the best place where they shine. But there are a lot of other places to use them as well. Okay, so that's it for him. Ooh, I just realized he's on Demonic Power. Yay, that's fun. There is actually... Oh, the super physical... Teen Gohan. That's from the Majin Buu saga. He's in, like, the Kai get-up. He is on Demonic Power, because every Gohan in the game is, and he's also super physical, which Glorio is as well. I might need to make a video where I can use the two of them side by side. Interesting. Okay, and then the third one we've got is Cabba here, right? He has the exact same passive, or super attack effect as Gohan, and then being, on all of these really good categories, he's our chance to get, like, Universe Survival Saga buffs in here and stuff. So yeah, very, very good. Oh, he's also pretty good on the Super Saiyans team. There's quite a few good STR Super Saiyans at this point. The Easy Aid, Super Vegito, the, Super Vegeta, the STR Kefla, like there's lots of good units. And then obviously Kefla is literally from Universe 6 as well. So Universe Survival Saga, Universe 6, there's lots of fun places to use them side by side. So yeah, Cabba, very, very good. So I ranked them in order from what I find most valuable to least valuable, based on just their overall power and then also like how often I use the unit. So yeah, we've got the first 3 here, and then Cell, he is on, Worldwide Chaos, and I use a, Tech LR Zamasu and then the Tech Androids, Android 17 and 18 team for Ultimate Clash, and he is on that team, so he's like a really, really strong support there. That's why I have him up higher than the rest of these, just because I use him a lot more than these other units. The physical Gohan here, well, I just pointed out, honestly, kind of want to do this. If he's gonna like line up against like with Glorio really well, then I kind of maybe think he's like the best one, just because we have the opportunity to use him alongside Glorio and Demonic Power, right? So I am gonna try that out. We'll see. And then if he ends up like looking good there, then he's definitely gonna be like my favorite at this point, right? But he is pretty good. Aside from that, anytime there's a new nuking event, I oftentimes try to go for physical. Physical seems to be the best like typing to use for nuking events. For me, at least, just having access to basically every unit in the game. Obviously, these 50% supports are going to be insane staples for those nuking events because they provide the orb changing on top of the crazy support for whatever units. And then now, they themselves can actually hit so hard, they can be the damage dealing unit as well. Especially if you consider when you're nuking, you're trying to select as many key spheres as possible. And once you get more than 10 with them, they're guaranteed critting on top, which is just going to help their damage even more in that space, right? But if you consider physical, you've got some of the best orb changers in the game on physical, namely Weirus is the biggest one. And because Weirus is a banner unit that's been around for so long, I have a TUR copy of him as well as an SSR copy of him as well. So a lot of the time when I'm running these nuke teams, I have 2 different copies of Weirus that both have the tech and int orb changing into physical. So I never, ever struggle to get... key on the field, right? And then obviously we've got the super easy aid physical Kid Buu as well that I run on there, and he happens to be physical as well. He doesn't really need to be because he is just providing support, but still, the full physical run there is why I have him listed high. And then Boo is here for the same reason, because of being on physical. Usually I opt toward using super physical units rather than extreme physical. But for instance, the Hercules Tile Breaking Challenge that just went live, you either had to use Saiyan Saga or Namek Saga characters to do boosted damage. So I used physical full power Frieza that just got their super easy A. And then this Boo was one of my support units on the team so that we could do, the best amount of damage there. So, yeah, and then the rest of them are no. I don't find too much usage for them. Obviously, for a while, this STR hit was the best extreme STR unit in the game, outmatching like the cooler units and stuff. And so, during like the 9th anniversary, there was some content where we had to use all like Rainbow Extreme teams to beat events, and that was like a mission, and so you had to use an extreme STR unit, and this was basically your best option until Cell Max came out, and now obviously he is a lot better. But yeah, aside from Cell Max, this guy right here is still one of the best extreme STR units in the game, so that is something to factor in. And then this TN, the rest of the 3 of these really aren't that usable. Like, sure, throw TN on like an Earthbred fighter team. You can use him alongside the Tech 23rd World Tournament Goku. They can be like a double lead. I do that for Ultimate Clash sometimes. This Int Vegeta isn't too terrible, I guess. Like, there's some good extreme Int lineups that you can throw around with him, with like Piccolo Jr. and stuff, because he is on Gifted Warriors, so he falls under his leader skill. But yeah, nothing too insane there. And then I guess same deal with Rildo. You could throw him on like a Terrifying Conquerors team under like Ginyu. I guess now we have like the Extreme AGL Vegeta and the First Form Frieza. I believe he's on both of their leader skills. At least I know he's on Frieza. Maybe he's on Vegeta as well. So yeah, there's some decent places you can use a couple, basically any of these. But these top, the first half of this list is definitely like way more powerful than the second half of the list as far as like their usability in my account, right? Okay, so next up, that is enough of the 50% supports. We are breaking into a new tier of power and insanity in the game. So next up, we have got Broly, Chilai, and Lemo. Number 3 on the list, definitely very deserving of a spot this high, if you ask me. We are literally just going to read through their entire kit, because I think, obviously we're doing like my favorite units to use, and my like units I view as most valuable in the game and stuff. But as far as, like, if we're strictly rating units based on their kit and considering 0 other factors like usability on teams, what categories they're on, leader skill, animations, OSTs, like, if we're taking all of that, factoring out, amount of different places you can use them in the game, and specifically just looking at the bullet points of their passive effect, this is number 1 for me in the entire game, like, by a landslide. The only other unit that can even come close is Mechikabura, because he has a similar type of passive, but obviously his is not nearly as good as this. Okay, so starting out, 30% stats per key sphere obtained. That's pretty good. We obviously know the devastating power that the 50% supports have with getting 50% per key sphere. 30% is definitely very good as well. Then they get an additional 10% per key sphere if they're selecting physical key spheres. So their same type orbs are going to allow them to hit very hard and tank very well. They get 2 key per key sphere obtained, which this is probably the most useless part of their passive that I've noticed, because oftentimes if I'm using them on a team, it's to guarantee that they get the 7 or more key spheres so that they can get the guaranteed evasion. That's like the big deal with their kit. So oftentimes I'm selecting so many orbs that they're already at their guaranteed 24 key anyway, and I don't really see the effects of this too much. Because obviously once you're at 24 key, this doesn't really do much for you, because the additional 2 key doesn't give you, like, let's say if you select 1 physical key sphere, you get the additional 10%. You're not getting 2 more key spheres and then an additional 20% on top of that for the extra, because it just like added them in the ether. All this does is fill up your rectangles quicker to get you to 24 key, and then once you're at 24 key, this does nothing. Just so you know, it's not actually adding to your stats. So yeah, not super relevant part of the kit, but everything else is. Okay, so with AGL or STR key spheres, all allies get Key 2, an attack 39%. So if you want to have an attack heavy rotation, then you could throw out the AGL or STR key spheres. And then if you want to have a defensive heavy rotation, you do the tech or int key spheres. And then he gives 15% with a rainbow key sphere obtained, which is really, really good because, so first thing to note here, or wait, okay, let's just continue reading through. I'll get back to that. Okay, so then he gets an additional attack boost on super, which is very, very helpful. Obviously, this number isn't like insane here, but on top of being a nuker, that's probably why it's not. This definitely does help do some more damage. Remember, when it's performing, when performing a super attack, that means it's a multiplicative buff. So you're actually getting a lot more than 39% there. And then he launches a guaranteed additional super, and movie bosses or super bosses category allies get 10% damage reduction when key is 24. So this part right here kind of makes this a little bit important. If you have like a kind of a cruddy turn where he's unable to just easily get the 24 key, then this is going to ensure he does get there to that 24 key so he can get this portion of the passive as well, which is a bit helpful, right? You're going to be getting, so like on his strongest turns, let's say you have a movie boss ally like Physical Janemba, right? You can give him 39% defense, an additional 2 key, and an additional 10% damage reduction. All on that one turn for him, just free. Like, it's kind of crazy, yeah. So then, he does have the, if you were able to select 7 or more key spheres with him, he gets guaranteed evasion. And even if you are unable to select the 7 full key spheres, he's still got a high chance to evade. And obviously, I have mine built full dodge, so he doesn't just have a 50% chance, but then he also has like an additional, I want to say 20% chance on top of that, or like 25% chance, because I believe that it's 15 for the hidden potential, and then I also have equips on him as well. So, yeah. So he's got very, very good dodge reliability if you have some kind of crazy turn where you're unable to get the 7 key spheres. Now, for me, the reason why I rate this unit so highly, and I feel like there are a lot of people in the community that, this is a very controversial unit. There are people on both sides of the coin here. Some people that think that this unit's amazing. Some people that think that this unit is completely useless and unreliable. For me, I think it's amazing because if we jump down here to their categories really quick, obviously they don't have too many, but whenever I do decide to use them, one of the biggest places is Power of Wishes. This is when I started using this unit a lot, was when Power of Wishes released, because you have multiple very powerful units on Power of Wishes. Also now on super bosses and movie bosses that are Rainbow Orb Changers. Now, they aren't a Rainbow Orb Changer themselves. They are going to be changing to Fizz key spheres when you're below 60% HP, and then they do all key spheres to Fizz key spheres when you're below 39. Other than that, they don't do any, key sphere changing themselves. But if you put them alongside a Rainbow Orb Changer, i.e. Bulma, is my favorite combination to do, then I have found that 95% of the time they are able to select their 7 key spheres. And the thing is, when you have a Rainbow Orb Changer, obviously a Rainbow Orb Changer is going to be better than like a type orb changer for you. It just frees up the key spheres on the board a lot more than adding a color, right? But the thing is, a lot of the times when you have units that depend on orbs, they are built to be run in like a later slot, in like slot 3 or something, and that's hard because then you have multiple units that are already selecting orbs throughout the turn, depleting your availability of orbs unless you're like purposely, like sleeping on your first couple of units and not giving them a lot of orbs on purpose so that you can give them to the later unit in the rotation. My long-winded point here is that Broly, Chila, and Lemo don't suffer from that issue, because the idea is to get the 7 key spheres where they have guaranteed dodge, and then you should be putting them in slot 1, right? So once your Rainbow Orb Changers, any of your Rainbow Orb Changers on the team, on the rotation, whatever, do their thing, then the very next thing you do is you select orbs with Broly, Chila, and Lemo, and chances are you're going to have the 7, right? Unless you're in some type of crazy fight where that isn't going to be the case for some reason, right? So, yeah, I have found them just incredibly reliable, and because guaranteed dodge is a pretty like universal ability, you can depend on them in Super Battle Road slot 1. They're not going to take any of those attacks. You can depend on them in Easy A stages. They won't take any of the attacks on the rotations that they're on, right? Like, aside from just like red zone fights or end game content, there's just like a million places to use this unit where they do look very, very good for you. So Yeah, Broly, Chila, and Lemo. Definitely one of my all-time favorite units in the game. I am super proud to put them on this list. Oh yeah, also, I guess it's worth mentioning, they do have big bad bosses, which has always been the funniest thing because, you know, we've gotten solo, you know, obviously they have just slept on giving Broly big bad bosses over time. Like, basically every Broly unit in the game doesn't have big bad bosses, and it's because they gave him a lot of Saiyan links instead of giving him all the typical, like, you know, like, enemy links that you would have, like Janembas and Zamasus and stuff have. And then we finally got a solo card for Chilai, and she does not have big bad bosses as well. So people like to joke that Lemo here is the big bad boss because that would be the only conceivable reason why we've got big bad bosses. But obviously it's because of the role that this unit played in the movie, I guess, is the thing. It's weird. It's weird. That is definitely like one of the funkier parts of their kit. But yeah, on top of that, their animations look insane. Their card art is beautiful. So yeah, one of my favorite units in the game. All right. We are getting very close, closing out the list here. So unit number 2 on the list is AGL UI Goku. Yeah, this guy is just one of the most powerful units in the game. It's probably going to be a very long time before he falls off. You know, what's indicative of this to me is the past. So when he first released, obviously during the 6th anniversary, he was basically the best unit in the game. I think there was a couple people debating that the AGL full power Frieza that came out alongside the Super Saiyan Goku for the Namek Saga worldwide celebration that preceded that. A lot of people, you know, debated that full power Frieza was better than this Goku, maybe, but it was between the two of them for best unit in the game. And I think that was just because there are a lot of people that don't like to rely on dodge units, and at the time he was pretty dodge or die. So it made sense why a lot of people would favor the Frieza over this unit, but he was insane. Like, he was one of the best units in the game when he came out. One of the very first units ever to release, you know, having 70% dodge, like a great chance to dodge in his kit, just for free without any conditions or anything like that, and then giving himself additional dodge on top of that was just quite crazy. So, and even long after, like more than a year after his counterpart, the Evolution Blue Vegeta, completely faded into darkness and was basically garbage tier and unrunnable, this guy still remained as one of the most, like, I wouldn't say one of the most amazing units in the game or one of the best units in the game, but still a very reliable unit, still a very strong powerhouse unit that you could throw on as like the 6th option on a team and stuff, right? Because, you know, regardless, again, like we've talked about with some of these other units, 70% chance to dodge guaranteed is not like unreliable, right? Obviously he could get you killed because that isn't actually guaranteed. Like, you do still have a chance to get caught there, but it's good enough that you can choose to rely on it, and it's not going to cause you hindrance, you know, more times than like it will actually help you and you'll succeed. So but yeah, that's how I know that this guy is going to be amazing for a very long time, because he got all of these incredible buffs to his kit, which allow him to do a lot more, you know, unique things in battle, kept all of his stats competitive with today's standards, so he's able to put out a reasonable attack stat. He's able to actually tank attacks somewhat decently. Once you've gotten him built up and stuff, he is able to tank a little bit there. But yeah, so even after all of that goes away, he's still going to have all of his dodge chance, which has just gotten even better with his Easy A, right? So now he has 77% chance to evade in base, and then much like the Int Yamcha, he does have one of these awesome abilities in his passive that we have discovered works incredibly well. With each attack evaded within the turn, he gets an additional 7% chance to evade. That is not a separate proc from this 77% chance. That is an additional on top of this, which means he dodges one attack, and then you add 7% to this, putting him at 84%. So starting from his second dodge, he is at 84%. And then from after the second dodge, he's at 93%, and then after that, he's literally at 100% chance to dodge for the turn. This ability, like just this portion right here, the fact that this portion is in his passive, he could have nothing else in his passive at all, just this, and he would still be up here on my list. He might not be as high, but he would still be on my top 10 for sure. But then the fact that he does have all of these insane stats and stuff allowing him to hit very hard. Let's not forget his super attack effect that gives him high chance to perform a crit for 1 turn, which means if he does an additional super, the first super is already 50% chance. If he does an additional super, the rest of any attacks or damage he does for the turn is guaranteed crit. That is so good. And then he also does raise the allies crit chance, which is nice because he is probably the best slot 1 unit in the game. So you know, chances are you're going to have him in slot 1 and then be giving all of this crit chance to the rotation, which is very helpful for some extra damage. And if all of that wasn't enough, he also let's see. Okay. So he's got some additional defensive stats while he's evading, which helps him you know, tank a little bit better. He gets some additional attack and performs crits when activating the active skill or key is 24, because obviously when you activate the active skill, the way the game is coded, it thinks you're at 24 keys, so it's basically the same thing. But yeah, so that's pretty easy to do, not too difficult, especially with this. As he evades attacks, he's getting more and more ki just added to his kit, so it's really easy to get to the 24 ki once he's had a couple of turns of dodging out. But then, on top of all of that stuff, if he wasn't insane enough, now, if he is below 77% HP at any point in battle, when you spawn into the turn, he's on rotation, and you're below 77% HP, which is not hard to do. In a modern fight, you pretty much only have to take 1 normal for that to happen, with the wrong character, right? And then he gets a guaranteed revive, and he'll recover with 77% HP. That's just dumb. So you get the free turn of being fully protected. If any, you know, you or an ally attacking die on that turn, then he revives, and you know, he gets additional key and stats after the revival skill is active, and then guaranteed evasion after the revival skill is activated. So, like, he's just got everything. This guy is so good. He's just such an impressive unit that I cannot believe exists, and I am so happy that I get to use. So, yeah, he's already got all of that. He's also got the active skill, which allows him to do another, you know, very strong attack, which is cool. It gets him an outfit change as well, which allows him to go into this mode where he's shirtless and stuff, and his gi blows off the top half of his body. He's got one of the best, you know, he's got really good, really solid animations. His card art is sick. He's got one of the best OSTs in the game. So yeah, just absolutely everything about this guy from top to bottom. Even his leader skill is very good. Like, Miraculous Awakening and Reps of 7, this includes, like, some of the best units on the game. Obviously, you get to use the Easy Aid 6th Anniversary LRs. You get to use the other 7th Anniversary LRs, like the Part 2 6th Anniversary LRs, right? The 17 and Golden Frieza and the 17 and Universe 7. And then, you know, Miraculous Awakening is insane. You've got characters like Beast Gohan on there and stuff. A lot of other really strong superhero units. So yeah, like, just, there's not one part of this card that's a downside. And then on top of all of that, he is a Goku. So he just gets to be on every single category in the game. So there's just an infinite amount of places to use this guy. And because of his insane dodging, honestly, genuinely, you probably could run him off leader skill. If there was some crazy, like, mission you're trying to beat or whatever, well, typically missions are, like, category-based content. But if he falls under the requirements of whatever mission you're doing, think about it. He genuinely could be used on a team. One place that I use him commonly is in LR EZAs, because LR EZAs don't care what category you're on for attack. All you need is legendary power for attack. So you can just run like a Reps of 7 team or some type of superhero team, getting him on there, and he's still going to be able to do a lot of damage. He's just going to be susceptible to taking damage if he's not on whatever type effective category, but that's fine, because the point is for him to dodge anyway, right? So it doesn't matter if he's on the category. He shouldn't be taking any damage. So yeah, this guy is just usable in basically every part of the game. He is incredibly useful. So yeah, absolutely deserves his spot on this list. And go Goku. Okay, so rearing out the list, based on what we've been doing over here on the side, the entire video, every single person should be able to guess exactly what unit is sitting right here at number 1, where he's literally attacking right now. If you haven't figured it out yet, it's Imp Piccolo Jr. Imp Piccolo Jr. is the best unit in Dokkan Battle history. You can't, like, you literally, even after everything that I just said about Goku, Piccolo is still... Okay, here. To give you an idea. Here we go. There you go. This is what the list looks like. This is the real list, okay? It's Piccolo Jr. up here by himself, and everything else in the game can just fuck right off. That's basically it. So, yeah, Piccolo Jr., dude, the guy he is just insane. Like, okay, let's just go over the kit, because if you're unfamiliar, right? Piccolo Jr. So, we'll start with the most important part, which is the active skill. Can be activated when HP is 50% or less starting from the 4th turn of battle, not super relevant, or when facing 2 or more enemies. Very relevant, because you can force that, and there are a lot of fights you're going to be jumping in. Right away, you're going to be against multiple enemies. So, he gets massively raises attack, causes mega colossal damage to all enemies, which means he's going to be attacking every single enemy that is on the field. He also disables an action once for every enemy in the turn. Or basically disables each enemy's action in the turn up to once for every enemy. So yeah, that's crazy, right? So this means that if you're doing any type of quest modes with link leveling is the main place, obviously. You've been seeing me do this the entire video. Helps with speed there and efficiency there. Super Battle Road stages, you're basically always going to be against multiple enemies. He's so strong on, like, and we'll get into this too. He's so strong that he has the, ability to wipe out these enemies with just his active skill. And then even if he's not, he's going to do an attack disable on them as well. So basically ghost ushering for you for anybody that doesn't, or that does survive through whatever his active skill is going to be, right? So yeah, that's insane for, like, Super Battle Road. Obviously, this is the best World Tournament unit in the game. This has absolutely changed the modern meta of World Tournaments. Like, they're just completely different now that he exists. The maximum amount of points people are able to achieve is like 20 or 30 million higher than it was prior to his existence because of how quickly you can run through runs. It is definitely not a thing to be underestimated. The ability to end a fight before ever having to select orbs or watch super attack animations, and that you simply would only have to swipe up at the beginning of the turn to activate an active skill, which you can have the animations turned off for and will activate much quicker, and then kill all the enemies. It's the quickest way to go around to get through the game, any content. It is the quickest workaround. Now, you might ask, okay, well, if that is so true, then why did I have Yamcha so low on this list if he's basically a character capable of doing the same thing, right? Well, one, Yamcha has a category specification that allows him to get his active skill. So if you aren't on a rotation with full Earthbred fighters, then you don't get his active skill. Whereas this guy just needs to have multiple enemies. He doesn't even have to be on the leader skill himself to get it, or have anybody else on his leader skill if you're running a team with him, right? That's how I'm able to just throw him on as this link level leader as a friend lead, and then it just works, right? So there's that to consider. And then also, this is more valuable as far as saving time because you're doing this to all enemies, right? If you're on a one enemy fight and you jump in with a Yamcha, not getting the active skill isn't a huge deal because you only have to do one super attack. Now, granted, you are still going to be taking more time because you have to select orbs for all of your characters, and then there might be some slot 1 attacks from the enemy that you have to wait through those animations, especially if they get a super attack, it would take longer, right? Before you're able to launch your first super to end the fight. And obviously, we're talking about, like, slouch fights, not real fights where you'd have to attack the enemy multiple times to KO them, but where one attack is just going to auto win. Yamcha's not going to be saving you that much time because it's only one enemy. Whereas in multiple enemy fights, as you're seeing right now, we're taking an extra minute, an extra 30 seconds on top of this because there's so many extra animations we have to watch with all of these characters attacking back to back to back. So Piccolo Jr. just, the net time saved is way higher for him than literally any of these other utility characters in the game that I have showed you on this list. So yeah, just absolutely insane. My favorite active skill, and for this alone, he has always been my friend leader character that I have set. I don't change it ever. I'm considering changing it to Glorio now, just because, Glorio is one of those units that people are, like, very, very commonly going to be relying on and stuff, and I could see people wanting to use him as a friend lead, but I just feel like the utility of this guy, he just, even on top of Glorio, this guy has way more utility in the game, right? So yeah, I just absolutely love this unit. So now to actually get into the unit's kit. Their leader skill here, Gifted Warriors, Terrifying Conquerors, and Giant Form, 170%, and then the additional 32 Battle of Fate and World Tournament. Awesome. That is a pretty diverse leader skill that's going to give him access to quite a few different units in the game. Obviously, Terrifying Conquerors is going to be like all of the big bad bosses units. These are all of the major villains in the game, so you're going to be able to build very strong teams there. Giant Form and Gifted Warriors are interesting because with Gifted Warriors, you're going to have units like Frieza's and things like that, but then you're also going to have units like Vegeta's, both super class and extreme class Vegeta's. You're also going to have a lot of the youngins, like Vegeta's offspring and stuff. So a lot of the Kid Trunkses and Kid Gotens and things like that, they're going to be on Gifted Warriors as well. So really, really neat that there's a lot of random characters you can throw alongside him, and then same deal with Giant Form. Obviously, this is just any character that has a giant transformation in the game. So the possibilities are endless because you have all of the Great Apes on here, as well as all of the, like, you know, you've got Lord Slug and Tapion and, like, all of the villains that do their giant transformations and stuff, too. So, yeah, his active skill, or his leader skill is pretty good. Okay, then he gets, he has an entrance animation here. So it's guaranteed, right? There's no conditions to activate this entrance animation. He just activates it every time. He has a high chance of launching an additional super for 1 turn. And then he has Key 2 and 101% stats for 5 turns. That's pretty good. That helps out his damage and defense a lot. He's got Key 3, 150% stats at the start of turn. He gets an additional 20% stats with each super attack performed, up to 100%. And having this chance at the additional here in the first turn is going to help him build that up quicker, for sure. He gets attacks effective against all types if he's only against one enemy, so that is cool. I do like that they have given him a bit of balance of stuff versus one enemy versus multiple, right? He's got ways to use his kit regardless of what you're facing off against. Then by default, he's got a 30% chance of launching an additional super. Again, it's very good that he doesn't have a chance to launch, or like a guaranteed attack with a chance for it to be a super. I think technically that is better than just having a high chance to launch the super, right? Only because it would help proc your hidden potential system more if you were to just get the normal instead, because it would be a guaranteed attack with the normal instead of like a medium chance of a super. It could just be a guaranteed normal with a medium chance of super, and then you have a better chance to proc the hidden potential system thing. So these aren't written perfectly. They could be a little bit better, but they're still very good. The fact that you're getting those super attacks is nice. Again, helps him build up. Okay. And then he gets an additional 60% stats after receiving an attack. And then an additional 100% stats, and all enemies minus 30% as the first attacker in the turn. So this is very good. This is he's got, you know, some defense up front. Obviously, you're not going to be able to take him into like the craziest red zones and stuff and do this. But like in super battle road stages, as long as you don't get supered right away, like he can hold his own for this stuff for sure. Definitely helps him out. But again, if you're not wanting to run him as the first attacker in the turn, he's a diverse enough unit. He's also got some great abilities here. So additional 100% stats when performing a super, which is going to be a multiplicative buff. Very, very strong. And then high chance of launching another additional super as the second or third attacker in the turn. So if you throw him as second or third attacker in the turn, he can launch like 4 or 5 super attacks for you. And remember that if you launch the active skill, that also counts as one of those supers for his turn. So now, if all that weren't enough, he's also got a giant transformation. So this is... where do they even show... Oh, it's down here. Okay. So yeah, he turns into a giant when HP is 60% or less starting from the 4th turn. So now let's remember really quick that something important about the giant form abilities here is that these are very, very good for hard bosses because they do not progress the turns. So when you transform into a giant form unit, even though this can last for 2 or 3 turns, if you watch your turn counter, you know, over at the bottom of the screen, like where you can see down here, I'm on turn 1 on my game right now. Yeah, so you can see that even like throughout the entirety of the giant transformation, you're on the same turn. So what that means is if a boss is coded to only be able to super once or twice, quote unquote, per turn, then during the giant transformation where you can't take any damage, the enemy's going to launch all of their super attacks at you. They're going to launch any of their special abilities that they have, like you know, like healing is one of the biggest ones where the boss is able to heal and stuff. They're going to launch all of that out against the giant form, and then when you come back onto your normal rotation once he de-giantifies, now that is going to be a free turn for you because the enemy is not going to have any special abilities or super attacks to launch out at you, and you know all of your units on that rotation are going to be safe. So yeah, just the fact that he has that ability, which is one of the strongest, like, final boss fight abilities to be able to use in the game, which is obviously why the Tech Orange Piccolo was so strong for as long as he was. Yeah, it's like the amount of crazy stuff in the rest of this guy's kit often makes me forget that he has the ability to do this giant form, which is just yet another really, really awesome thing about his kit. So yeah, and then on top of all of that, he is a big bad boss's unit. He's got some pretty good links on top of that, and he's got an insane amount of categories. He's also on Demonic Power. Ugh, Demonic Power looking to be one of the crazy. I wonder what they're gonna do with Demonic Power for the 10th anniversary. There's got to be some focus on it. I imagine we're gonna get some buffs, whether it be like a new crazy Gohan or something, or if they go the Daima way again. I don't know. Definitely lots of cool potential there. All right, well, I think that pretty much brings up the rear here. That is the list of my, I guess, it's like, how many are there? Because there was 11 slots, plus a 12th unit, and then an additional 9. So these are my top 21 units of Dokkan Battle history, even though it's technically like a top 10 list, not really. So yeah, there it is, folks. If you had to take away all my units, take these ones last. Thank you very much. And obviously, as a quick reminder, if anybody's pretty new to the game, this is the list of units that we're looking at here. It's pretty endless, honestly. There's way too many units in this game. It took me quite a while to hunt through for all of these different units, and I think if I were to spend hours and hours more, I would probably come up with a couple of other units that deserve to be on this list, which brings me to my last point. If there are any units that would be in your top 10 favorite units of all time to use, or favorite units that you have in your box, or favorite units that you wish you had in your box, then let me know in the comments below. I'm very curious to see where your guys' standpoint is in 2025 Dokkan, and we'll probably check in on this again in months, or maybe just at the end of the year, and see where things have changed from our list this time. All right, well, we are over an hour into the recording here, so I am going to let you guys go. I am going to stop rambling. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for another year of support through Dokkan, and I look forward to releasing much more content for you guys in the following year to come. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.